Direct News TV. June 22, 2023. Russia-Ukraine updates, generals lie to Putin, Wagner boss says. Zelensky, Russia is hiding bodies of victims of dam breach. Russia has formed special groups to collect and hide bodies of people killed in the aftermath of the breach this month of the Kakhovka Dam in southern Ukraine, Zelensky says. The Russian evil has formed special groups there to remove and, obviously, hide the victims' bodies, Zelensky charged in his nightly video address. Ukraine and Russia have accused each other of destroying the dam in the Kherson region, partly occupied by Russian troops. Cluster munitions would be useful for Ukraine, Pentagon says. The U.S. military believes cluster munitions would be useful for Ukraine in pushing back against Russian forces, but they have not been approved for Kyiv yet because of congressional restrictions and concerns from allies, a senior Pentagon official says. Kyiv has urged members of Congress to press Biden's administration to approve sending dual-purpose conventional improved munitions, PICM. The cluster munitions, banned by more than 120 countries, normally release large numbers of bomblets that can kill indiscriminately over a wide area, threatening civilians. Our military analysts have confirmed that PICMs would be useful, especially against dug-in Russian positions on the battlefield, Laura Cooper, a Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense focusing on Russia and Ukraine, told lawmakers during a congressional hearing. The reason why you have not seen a move forward in providing this capability relates both to the existing congressional restrictions on the provision of PICMs and concerns about Allied unity, Cooper added. UN appalled by high number of violations against children, AJ correspondent. Regarding the United Nations annual report on the treatment of children in conflict zones, in which Russian military forces and proxy armed groups were on its list of shame, Al Jazeera's James Bays, reporting from the UN, says copies of the report have been sent to the 15 members of the Security Council. The Secretary-General has put another very important country on the list, Russia, because of its invasion in Ukraine. The report finds, it verifies, that Russia killed 477 children during the war in Ukraine, Bays said. The Secretary-General says he is very concerned about this, appalled in fact by the high numbers of violations against children by the Russian Confederation. And, he says he's also troubled by reports of children being transferred from Ukrainian territory to Russia and also attacks on schools and hospitals. Modi says India, completely ready to help Ukraine peace. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has promised to work towards peace in Ukraine, on a visit to Washington that has hoped for New Delhi to break with Russia. From the very beginning of the events in Ukraine, India has put an emphasis on resolution of disputes, dialogue and diplomacy, Modi told reporters alongside Biden. We are completely ready to contribute in any way we can to restore peace. Kyiv says Ukrainian forces contain Russian forces in east. Ukrainian forces are containing Russian forces on the eastern front and have not allowed a single meter of Russian advances, Deputy Prime Minister Hanna Maliar has said. Our defense forces continue to contain effectively advances by Russian troops, Maliar wrote on the Telegram app, referring to 4 key sectors in the east, including the Lyman further north, where officials say Russian forces have been active. Maliar said Ukrainian forces on the southern front, where several villages were captured last week, were gradually moving forward. We have had partial success. We are pushing back the enemy and leveling the front line. 60 billion euros pledged to help Ukraine rebuild. Foreign donors have pledged 60 billion euros, $66 billion, of new financial support for Ukraine, the UK has said, as an international conference aimed at funding the war-ravaged country's reconstruction closed. We had not envisaged this to be a pledging conference. Nevertheless, today at this conference, we can announce a combined 60 billion euros in support to Ukraine, said James Cleverly, Foreign Minister of the UK, which hosted the meeting. This provides us with the medium-term predictable support that will unlock the macroeconomic stability that Ukraine needs, he said, adding that efforts were now focused on unlocking the enormous potential of the private sector. Ukraine will rebuild, but they cannot do it alone, so together as governments, as international organizations, as businesses, as representatives of civil society, we have shown Ukraine and the Ukrainian people that we stand with them, he added. Diplomats from Western countries, developing economies to meet in Denmark for talks. Denmark will host a meeting this weekend of national security advisors from Western countries backing Ukraine and countries that have refused to condemn the Russian invasion, officials have said. The U.S. will send National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and Under-Secretary of State Victoria Nuland to the meeting in Copenhagen, which will focus on how to achieve a just peace in Ukraine, a Western official said on condition of anonymity because the trip hasn't been formally announced. India, Brazil and South Africa, which have refused to condemn the invasion and join Western sanctions on Moscow, have also been invited to the talks, the official said, but couldn't say which countries would attend. Ukraine progresses on reforms to unlock membership talks, EU says. Senior EU officials say that Ukraine is making progress on political reforms to open the way for European Union membership talks but still needs to progress in 5 important areas. The assessment, by the EU's executive body, the European Commission, offered Kyiv hope that it could achieve its aim of getting the green light for membership talks in December. But it also made clear that Ukraine has a way to go just to complete the 7 steps that the EU outlined last year when it granted Kyiv the status of a candidate for membership. They are on track, they are working hard. After all, the country is under attack, said Oliver Varhelyi, the European Commissioner for Relations with the EU's neighbors. Compared to that, I think that they are delivering. He said Ukraine had made progress but had more work to do on constitutional court reform, on measures to fight corruption, money laundering and curb the influence of oligarchs, and on the treatment of minorities. My name is Kingsley. Please like, share, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be the first to be notified whenever we post. You won't regret it.